Good morning, first graders, even though it's evening where I'm at. I hope you had a good day yesterday. And are you guys ready for our book today? It's a fun one. It's called Bad Day at Riverbend. Okay? And there's a mystery, of course, because it's Chris Van Allsburg. You got to figure out what this stuff is. Okay? So here's your 2-sentence summary. This one is it's laid out first. There's questions first, and then the summary is at the end. Okay? I wrote the summary in a way that doesn't give it quite away. So I'm gonna put this up here for you guys. It says, the sleepy, colorless town of Riverbend undergoes dramatic changes every time there's a bright light. Will the townsfolk solve the mystery where the shiny, greasy stuff is coming from? You guys need to solve the mystery too. So there's your sentence summary. Go ahead and stop your camera, your video, so that you can get this copied down. All right. So the things that we're going to be looking for are, you're going to be making some predictions, some inferences. What is the greasy stuff that is covering the town? What is the mysterious light that shines brightly and freezes the townspeople? Here's your question of the day. What happened at the end of the story? Give evidence from the story to support your theory. And then there's one more thing is, what do you think about Sheriff Ned Hardy and why? All right, so I'm gonna tell you when you can stop and write your predictions down. I'm gonna go almost all the way to the end of the book. I'm gonna give you lots of time to figure it out, okay? So here's our book. It's kind of a cowboy book, a Western theme. All right. Here it is. I'm gonna adjust here. Oh no. Whoopsie. Sorry about that, guys. That's not good. But I think we're okay now. So here we go. That was kind of crazy. Here it is. Riverbend was a quiet little town, just a couple dozen buildings alongside a dusty road that led to nowhere. Though the stagecoach occasionally rolled through town, it never stopped because no one ever came to Riverbend and no one ever left. It was the kind of place where one day was just like all the rest. So you have to figure it out. I think I'm gonna guess this is the sheriff. So think about his character traits while I read, okay guys? But one morning, try to get this, I need my helper so you guys can see it. But one morning, Sheriff Ned Hardy stood in front of the Riverbend jail and saw something he'd never seen before. A brilliant light in the western sky. It lasted a few minutes, then faded away. Sheriff Hardy went into the jailhouse. He was sitting quietly at his desk, wondering what the strange light meant, when a loud pounding rattled the jailhouse door. The sheriff opened it and saw Owen Buck, the blacksmith boy, breathing so hard he could barely speak, in between gasps. Ned Hardy heard the word stagecoach and something awful. Okay. Here's the stagecoach. What do you make of it, guys? What do you think happened to that stagecoach? The sheriff followed Owen outside. The coach had never stopped in Riverbend before. But now it stood motionless at the end of the street. A crowd gathered around it, but they held back as if they were afraid to get too close. It was easy to see why. The horses were covered with great stripes of some kind of shiny, greasy slime. "What is it, Sheriff?" someone asked as Ned Hardy stepped up to the coach. He didn't know. It was the strangest thing he'd ever seen. The strangest thing anyone had ever seen. Look, he's trying to pull it off. The horses were nervous and breathing hard. They looked terrible. Their smooth white coats scarred with this orange stuff that hung from them like loopy ropes or stuck out like stiff wire. The sheriff grabbed a piece with both hands. It was slippery. He gave it a pull and the horse jerked away and whimpered in pain. Whatever it was stuck to them, as sure as their flesh. "Where's the coachman?" Sheriff Hardy asked. Gone, someone answered. The coach came into town without him. Ned Hardy wasn't sure what to do. He scratched his head. Well, he finally said, guess I'll go look for him. The sheriff rode out of town, following the wagon's trail west. Before long, he stopped. The ground was covered with the same marks that were on the horses. Whatever happened must have happened here. He didn't see any sign of the driver, but he heard a muffled sound. Oh, look, here's the stagecoach driver. What happened to him, guys? What do you make of it? What does it look like this is? Ned Hardy got off his horse and discovered the coachman sitting on the ground behind a rock. The poor man looked awful. He was covered with a greasy slime. Thick strips of stuff ran right across his eyes and mouth. He couldn't see or speak, except a mumble. The sheriff helped the coachman up and led him to the horse. As they rode together back toward Riverbend, Ned Hardy heard the sound of thundering hoofbeats. He rode to the top of the ridge and looked down on a charging herd of cattle, many marked with the same awful slime that covered his poor saddle-mate. When he turned his horse back toward town, he saw the same bright light in the sky he'd seen that morning. It was just beyond the horizon, right over Riverbend. It didn't last long, so the bright light happens like it's coming from the sky. As he approached Riverbend, it was clear to Ned Hardy, even from a distance, that something terrible had happened. Now remember, when they rode out of town, the buildings didn't look like this, right? But now that they're riding back into the town, look at how the buildings look. Riding into town, he could barely bring himself to look at the buildings, now covered with the hideous marks and stripes. The sheriff got out of the saddle. The town looked deserted, but when he passed the hotel, someone called out, "Sheriff!" Ned Hardy helped the coach driver down and led him to the hotel. I love how he just has the color on one side. So they're inside the building. This is the coachman. The townspeople and some cowboys were gathered inside. A few were covered with the greasy slime. They all told the same story. Without warning, the sky overhead filled with a brilliant light, a light that froze everything it touched. It was filled with a brilliant light, a light that froze everything it touched. Herds of cattle, even birds in the sky. And it was blinding, like stepping out of a privy and looking straight into the sun at high noon. One of the cowboys said, "Couldn't see a darn thing." When the light passed, they were covered with the greasy marks. "What are we going to do, Sheriff?" someone asked. "We can't spend our lives hiding in here." Here's the sheriff again. He's got some character traits, this guy. He's pretty what? What do you think about him and his character? "No," Ned Hardy said, "we can't." He walked outside and stood in front of the hotel. His bravery inspired the others, and they joined him there. They looked at their poor town. Pretty little Riverbend was now too ugly for words. "Look!" someone shouted. Pointing at the sky above the hills just out dawn, the mysterious light appeared. Some people ran back into the hotel, but Ned Hardy just stared at the strange light without blinking an eye. Whatever evil this thing has done, it's out in those hills," he said, pointing in the direction of the light. "I aim to ride out there and put an end to it." The sheriff left town with a posse of well-armed men. They followed the trail of light. It wasn't hard to tell where it had been. The greasy streaks were everywhere. The men even saw them floating in the sky, but the light they saw always appeared just beyond the horizon. You never can see that. What's that look like? Then they saw the mysterious light shine brightly just over the next hill. The men crawled up the hill, but the light faded away as soon as they peeked over the top. Looking down, the brave cowboys saw something that made them gasp. "Ooh!" There was a man standing perfectly still at the bottom of the hill. He was as tall as a cottonwood tree and as skinny as a broomstick. and he looked like he was made entirely of the greasy stuff that now covered the countryside. Have you guys figured it out yet? The question number 1 is, what is the greasy stuff that is covering the town? You should be pretty close to figuring this out, I think. All right, why don't we stop the video and you guys write what the greasy stuff is. What is this stuff? This color. Okay. Ned Hardy was sure that this long-legged fellow was the cause of all their grief. They had only one chance. They'd have to get close enough to take a shot at this skinny devil before he used the light to freeze them. They crawled back to their horses. Ned Hardy gave a silent signal and the posse charged forward. That means the group. Okay, so what is the greasy stuff? Go ahead and make a prediction. And number 2, what is the mysterious light that shines brightly and freezes the townspeople? Go ahead and stop the video and make a guess about what the bright freezing light is. The freeze means it makes, when the light comes on, everyone in the town stops still. They don't move. That's what it means by freezes. Not cold. It just makes like freeze when you play like freeze tag, how you have to stand still. All right, that was inference number 2. All right, here is the question of the day. What happened at the end of the story? Give evidence from the story to support your answer. So what happened? What's this? But just as they came over the hill, they were frozen in the bright light that suddenly filled the sky. What's the greasy stuff, guys? Yeah. Do you guys get that? You guys seen Fritz yet? He may or may not be on this page. And then the light went out. Okay? This is a coloring book. And the light went out. Why did the light go out, guys? What's the coloring book now? It is, yeah, okay. Okay, so here we go. What happened at the end of the story? So there's a hand there, and someone was coloring the page, right? And then the light went out because what happened? Okay. And then what do you think of Sheriff Ned Hardy? Let's come up with 3 character traits for this guy. Not 1. Let's challenge ourselves like we always do. Do 3. If you want to challenge yourself, actually do 4. And back up his character traits. Why do you think those match his character? All right, friends. I hope you enjoyed a Bad Day at Riverbend by Chris Van Allsburg. See you guys.